Listening isn't just a soft skill, it's a strategic advantage. And for leaders, mastering awareness, word choice, and real time listening can transform tension into trust and conversation into catalyst for results. Welcome to the PhD with Women on IT, Hack the Future. My name is Jamil Navarrosa, and today's PhD Positivity Hack delivered will be by our guest, Barbara Jenks. Our topic for today is titled The Listening Advantage Leadership Beyond Words. Episode 209 starts here. Let me remind you, this is a grassroots community that focuses on women on IT, an inclusive forum of women in technology, startups, and female leaders who are supported by men as well. And I bring heart to that hustle because empathy is my mojo, and empathy is critical in leadership beyond words. This week on Positivity Hack Delivered, we're joined by Barbara Jenks, former HR leader at Boeing and Fox and founder of Clearly Communicate, as she shares how awareness, listening, and intentional word choice can transform leadership communication. With over 20 years of experience in high stakes corporate environments, Barbara reveals why conversations break down, how leaders lose credibility without realizing it, and what it really takes to read the room in real time. Blending neuroscience and improv techniques, she will show how communications goes far beyond words. Discover how deep listening and awareness help leaders build trust, influence outcomes, and shift energy when it matters the most. Please join me giving in a warm welcome to Miss Barbara.
I'm
Hey!
on.
Thank you so much for joining us, Miss Barbara. And to start, where in the world are you today?
I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much. It's a great honor to be here today speaking to you and your audience. So I can't wait to get started. I am in the dreary state of Washington, up by the border with Canada. That's where I am today. And I say dreary because as I look outside, I can see that it's very overcast. And yeah, the lighting in this room is a little bit dark because of it, but that's where I am.
That is fine, and we are so glad that you are here with us, sharing your insights. And so, Miss Barbara, you've spent years in high stakes environments like Boeing and Fox, where the air in the room can practically crackle with tensions. Most people focus on their talking points in those moments. Was there a specific aha moment in your career when you realized that being able to read the energy of a room was actually a bigger power move than having the perfect slide deck?
That's a great question. So I would say that even taking it a step back, it's having the confidence to be able to read the room and then do something about it. That is a journey that I have helped many women take, but that really is the first step. So, and I discovered that when, oh gosh, years ago, when at 20th Century Fox, I did all the training for the employees for harassment and discrimination policy. And I had my little script and I had to have it done in an hour, and I had my PowerPoint and I had my thing, and it was very much, it was very rote, as you, I'm sure, have seen many people when they give a presentation. They just sort of go into their thing. And I found, engagement was not very high. I felt like I'm giving you information you need to have, but they weren't really engaged. And I found that when I asked aloud questions from the audience as I presented, there was much more engagement with the material and people took it more seriously. And that was really important. That's a very important policy, as I'm sure you can agree. And that's when I really saw, oh, I need to pay attention to what's happening in the room and then engage with that in order to get a better result and to have them have a better experience.
Uh, we've all had those moments where a simple chat suddenly feels like a battlefield, and we don't even know why things went south so fast. What's actually going on in our brains when a conversation starts to go sideways? Are we just reacting in survival mode without even realizing it?
Yes. Next question. No, I'm kidding. That's exactly what's happening. Is your brain is getting hijacked by your amygdala. So your amygdala is the most, as you may know, is the most primitive portion of your brain, and it is what kicks in when you go into survival mode. It is the fight, flight, freeze that comes in. And so what can happen in a conversation, I've seen this many times, a manager is going to have a difficult conversation. They get ready to have the conversation. They have their little script. They're all set, ready to go. They know they sort of get themselves feeling confident. They go into the room, they have the conversation, and it starts to go in a direction that they didn't mean it to go in, because of course the other person in the conversation is there as well. And they are kicked off their script and they go off kilter. That's very common. And what can happen, because it's uncomfortable, it's a difficult conversation, they don't know what's going on, they start to freak out. There's a panic, an interior panic that starts to set in. And that's when the brain shuts down. So that is very common. That is exactly what happens. And did you also ask me what to do to get out of that state?
Yes, yes.
I would think that's important. So to be able to be aware that's what's happening, what normally happens when people haven't worked with me, frankly, or they haven't developed another way to become more aware of how to know what they're thinking and take a hold of their thoughts in that situation, that if they don't know how to do that, that's the first step. They need to realize that you do have control of the conversation, at least you're part of it, that you are there, you need to perform, and that it's all going to be okay. And the best way to do that is to start to breathe. When you become aware and you start to go off kilter, as soon as you feel that inside, okay, you talk to yourself. This is normal. This is what happens. I'm going to take some deep breaths and I'm going to start asking questions, because now I'm off my script. There's no getting back to the script. The most important thing is to be present in the moment, what's actually happening here and now, and how can I get specific about what is happening for this other person. So being curious and asking good questions because you're listening to what they're saying, that is the best way to handle that situation.
Mm-hmm. In the IT world, precision is everything in code, but we aren't always as precise with our language, especially for women navigating male dominated spaces. The words we choose can carry a lot of hidden weight. You talk a lot about intentional word choice. Are there certain low power words we use out of habit that might be accidental dimming or professional spark?
Yes, and I know I actually am currently collaborating with several software developers, that are men. So I really have a personal understanding of what might be going on there in those conversations. And absolutely, men speak in specificity, especially when they're in the IT and software world. They want specificity, they want logic, they want process. And women do not naturally speak that way usually. And that's where the rub is, as far as I can see. That's where it starts. And when women use words that are hedging or undermine them, when they say things like, well, I think maybe, or it's kind of this, or I'm not really sure, but I would say whatever. When you start your conversation in that kind of a hedging way, when you even say those words, you can kind of feel yourself diminishing. That undermines your competence, it undermines your credibility, and it's internally, when you speak to yourself that way, you're undermining your own confidence. And that can be, people pick up on that. It's an energetic, well, it's energy that you're actually sending out and transmitting. That's a whole nother conversation. But you are communicating that, people are picking up on that, and the men that you're working with, they know it immediately, because as soon as you go down the path of, well, maybe it could be, because women like to collaborate and talk about things, men don't. It's much more powerful to come in and say, here's what I recommend. This is what we need to be doing. Here's what the focus is for this conversation. When you speak in more absolute terms, which can be very difficult for women, and this is something that you can learn how to do. It takes time, and it's a change of habit, and it can be uncomfortable. And it is one of the most valuable things that any woman in any business, but particularly in IT, needs to learn, because it's that the more you can speak like the men are expecting to hear the information, the more success you're going to have. And there's people who will say to me, well, Barbara, I shouldn't have to change who I am. I'm a woman, and they need to change to listen to me. My answer to that is, they will change if they feel a need to change themselves. And to go into a workplace, an engineering workplace or an IT-based workplace, and expect everyone to change to accommodate your communication style as an HR person, that is an unrealistic expectation. It's better to kind of march both ends toward the middle, and for you to take, it's a self-growth thing for women. It's much more empowering to take responsibility for yourself and how you're showing up in the world, because I'll tell you, if you change it at work, it's going to change in other areas of your life. And you'll find that when you start speaking differently to yourself, when you start speaking with more confidence and competence to the people in your department, if it's men in your IT department, that's the example you gave me. When you start showing up differently at work, you're going to show up differently in your life, and you're going to see how your relationships everywhere are changing.
As a founder and coach, you've often called in when things are already a bit broken. You have to be a bit of a detective to find the root cause of the frictions. When you're faced with a big communication mess, what's your personal go-to strategy for untangling it? Where do you begin?
The first thing I do is I take care of myself. If I'm in a situation and it's just exploding all around me, let me give you an example of that. Like when I'm negotiating with the union and I have all the union reps on the other side of the table, and I have me and my team on my side of the table, and everyone starts going at each other and having a very robust conversation, shall we call it. The first thing I need to do in that situation is take care of myself, because my proclivity is to manage them. I want to, you need to calm down and let's get this back on track. And I want to do all these things outside of me. But in the reality, I can only manage myself in that situation. And by managing myself, I'm helping to lead others by the actions I'm taking. So some of the ways I take care of myself in that situation is by, first of all, recognizing that it's going awry. And for me, I start to breathe. I immediately start deep breathing techniques, which is box breathing. I'm sure you've heard of that, where you inhale for 4, exhale for 4, inhale for 4, exhale for 4. And get myself present in the room, myself. Then I start to think about what the next steps are going to be. But when I start to ask clarifying questions. That's one of the things I would do, is start to talk to just one person and say, I'm hearing you say XYZ. Can you tell me more about that? I want to hear what you have to say. And when I start to focus on just one person and what they want to say, everyone else kind of calms down, because I'm influencing the room. I'm taking control of the conversation without coming in and saying, shut up, everybody, when it's this big brouhaha. Those are the first two things I do: take care of myself, and then ask specific questions to help understand what other people mean.
That's good. And There is a long list of skills leaders are told to master, but in a fast-paced tech environment, we need to know where to focus on our energy first. If you had to pick a top three, which soft skills do you think are absolute game changers for women wanting to level up in IT right now?
Seriously, the top three are communication, 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 because everything has to do with communication. The definition of communication is the response that you get. And if you're not getting the response that you expected to get, then your communication is awry, and that is something that you need to fix. So I've said that it's kind of a pat answer, but there's many different ways communication shows up. And one of the ways is the communication with yourself is really the most important thing you can do, is to be able, how you talk to yourself is number one. Because if you're undermining yourself, talking to yourself, calling yourself an idiot because you made a mistake, how many times do we do that? I mean, I still do it sometimes, and I'm very aware of my voice in my head. But every time we do that, we're undermining ourselves, and it's depleting our confidence. We are our own worst enemy. And if we can do the work, the internal work it takes, it's not a lot of work, but it can be done. It's not years of therapy. In fact, that's part of what I provide. I have a 12-week coaching program that gets people over a lot of this just by changing the way that they talk to themselves. If you can do that, you're very ahead of the game, because now you're showing up more confident, just because your brain is on board with where you want to go. You're also using your communication skills to influence other people, which is a whole nother set of skills. I also teach that in my coaching program. And it is really key to be able to persuade and influence others. And I would have to say, get good at handling difficult conversations. In IT, you guys are, you've got missed deadlines is kind of a thing often. You've got product pressure, architectural problems in your system. And even though with AI, a lot of that is starting to be easier, there's still problems out there. You can have all the AI in the world and it's never going to help you. Well, it could help you, but it's not going to be able to take away the one-on-one personal difficult conversation that you need to have from time to time. So if you can master those three pieces of communication, communication is the soft skill.
Mm-hmm. The way we work has changed so much, and we aren't always sitting across the table anymore. Often, we're just looking at a screen. How do we keep that listening advantage alive when we're just looking at a grid of faces on a Zoom call? How do you read a room that's a digital?
Well, let me ask you a clarifying question. Is this a room you're leading and you want the people to stay engaged? That's what I'm assuming you mean by that, because there's a very specific way you can do that. And that would be, what I would do is I would, first of all, get everybody on board with some sort of a playful activity that's interactive. Like, for instance, if in improv, we often will do in-person interactions with a ball. So what you can do online is have an imaginary ball and let everyone know, we're all going to get to know each other a little bit, or we're already on a team and we know each other. That's fine too. But I have my ball. We're going to throw the ball this morning, people. And you can imagine this ball to be anything that you want it to be. But you want to react in a way that tells us what the ball is. So I'm going to throw you the ball. And I'll call somebody's name. Tony, catch the ball. So then Tony reaches up and catches the ball, but he catches a tiny little ping pong. So he catches it like this, and then he goes, Jerry, and he throws it across the room like that. And Jerry catches the ping pong ball, but then it turns into a big, heavy, heavy ball. So now he's doing this. He's going, okay, Caitlin. And then Caitlin has to catch the ball like this. And then she then makes it into a different ball that she wants. And that way you get people engaged right away, right from the very beginning, and they're doing something different and they're having fun and they're laughing and they're talking to each other. So that's a great way to start out when you're hosting the meeting. And then as you're talking, interaction is kind of falling off. Of course, you have a chat box, I'm sure, where you're interacting with the folks and you're chatting with them as you're going along. That's a great way to keep the engagement going. But if you feel that the energy is falling off at some point, or people are just starting to get that look, you can bring the ball back and say, hey, everybody, we seem to be kind of drooping a bit. Let's get going. Let's bring the ball back. Or you can make it something else. Just make it up. You could all wear funny hats. You could have pretend hats. You can have a hat, it's like this, or you can put something on top of your head. Then you can fill it up. Today we're going to make decisions. So we're going to put our hat on top of our head, and we're going to put all of our decisions in it. Then we're going to make it come down on our whole body. And now we're going to be really good at making decisions. So fun things like that are ways that you can engage your audience and connect with them online.
Mm-hmm. That's very nice. And that's a very good tip, actually, because, we are in a different world where, Zoom calls, Google Meets are really our tools. So that's a very nice suggestion or
Yeah, and if you want more
tip.
ideas about that, look up improv techniques for online Zoom meetings. There's probably something out there like that.
And our community is built on the idea of fostering a trusting and inclusive environment. Sometimes that trust is broken or hasn't been built yet. Do you have a favorite listening hack that a leader can use to instantly make someone feel safe enough to share a risky or out of the box idea?
Yeah, the best thing you can do to help people feel safe is to understand what state they're in. And again, curiosity and asking questions. So here's something about state management. And when I say state, that means your state of mind. Like if somebody cuts you off on the road, you're a frustrated state of mind. So that's just an example. When you go into a conversation like that and you want to help somebody feel more comfortable being there, the first and most important thing is to check in with yourself, know what your state is before you go into the room. Because if you go rushing into the room and you have with you the state of all the junk you just got dumped on from your last meeting, and now you have all these things going through your head of what you need to do, and now you're rushing into this meeting where somebody is feeling uncomfortable, that's not going to work because you're bringing all that stuff in from outside. So think of it as, even if you just have a few moments in between meetings, take the time, take a few breaths, put all the stuff from the last meeting. It can really help to visualize. So one of the visualization tools I use is I have a suitcase. I visualize putting all my stuff into the suitcase, closing it up, and leaving it outside the door. And reminding myself that I'm going to pick up the suitcase before I leave. So that's just going to stay there. It's not coming into the room with me. So now I'm in a open state. I go into the room and I'm immediately noticing that the person in the room is kind of hunched over with their arms crossed in their chair, their faces kind of down. They're not real happy about this conversation. So being curious and reading their body signals and responding to what you're seeing, and then calling out what you're seeing. So if you're meeting with Tony, I think I used that name already, but that's okay. If you're meeting with Tony and she's there, I would say, first of all, hey, Tony, it's really great to meet with you today. I can see that your arms are crossed. Can you tell me a little bit more? Can you tell me a little bit about that? And just let them talk. And if she says, no, not really, then you can just continue to ask some other questions about it. And, well, hey, I'm really glad you're here. Try to talk through it, give her some confidence. And this is going to be a really good conversation. I have confidence that it's going to end well. And I'm really excited to hear what you have to say. So but I notice your head is still down. So let's, what is it about that that's keeping your head down? Because I know that we need to talk about this difficult thing. You can kind of slowly but surely, you can kind of add in pieces and make a couple gentle suggestions. But my experience has been that people open up. They'll open up a little bit, and then you can follow up to what they say when they do start to open up. And then you're making them comfortable because they're finally opening up, and you can see that they're comfortable because they will relax in their chair. Because remember, communication is 3 ways. It's awareness, first of all, your awareness of yourself, awareness of the other people in the room. What state are they in? That's a big one. Then it's listening, which we're talking about today. Then it's word choice and noticing how your words that you're using are landing, noticing what other people's words are. What is that telling you about them? How are they saying it? What's the tone? Are they whispering? Are they saying it really loud? I mean, that really makes a difference how people show up. And it's their tone and their body language and their facial expressions. That is a bigger form of communication than words. And we all spend all of our time thinking about the words, but it's really these other 3 with the words that make the whole setting for the conversation. And when your awareness is increased enough where you're able to do both, that's where the good stuff is, right there. And when you're in that space, you can make anyone feel a little more comfortable. Do you have to make them totally comfortable? No. You just need to make them feel comfortable enough to engage to the level of what you need from them for work. I can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Sorry for that. Many of our listeners are at a crossroads, either looking to climb that corporate ladder or thinking about starting their own venture, just like you did. What's the biggest piece of advice you'd give to a woman who is ready to either accelerate her career or start her own entrepreneurial journey?
It is changing the way you talk to yourself, 100%. It is having that will bring a better relationship with yourself. That again will ultimately change all the relationships in your life. But when you are able to accept yourself for who you are in the moment, give yourself grace when you do make mistakes, because none of us would learn if we never made mistakes. I mean, mistakes are a part of life and we're supposed to do it. And I know women can, we can be really hard on ourselves. I know I was for a long time. I thought I had to be perfect. I didn't realize that I had that thought. It was a subconscious, habitual thought that really drove my life. And once I became aware of it, then I had to have a fight with my ego because my ego wants to be perfect. But that's not the point. The point is to be, get it to where it's as good as it can be for the moment and then move on. Because when you're stuck in perfectionism, it's comfortable. I'm going to talk about this for a minute, about comfortable and discomfort. When you get stuck in that cycle of it has to be, I'm going to make it better, it's not quite ready yet, you're in this analyzing mind where you're just going around and round and around with this thought loop constantly, and you're not moving forward. And the pressure is coming on you because your due date is coming, and you're not getting there because you're in this perfectionism driven thought process. And the only way to change that is with a pattern interrupt. And the way you do a pattern interrupt is you come in and you wake yourself up from it. You notice when you are aware, you will hear your thoughts and you can ask questions about it. And when you do that from a loving, kind place because you love and accept yourself, you allow yourself to make mistakes. You allow yourself to go be shitty at it, right? You allow yourself to go and play. Like I know we talk about, playing in the sandbox. I know that comes up a lot around a lot of different AI implementation right now. It's like, get your people to play with it. They need to play with it, make mistakes, get dirty, because that's how you're going to learn. These non-technical people, not in the IT land, because you guys know everything. But us non-IT people, we have to play with it. And that means get messy. And that means not knowing all the answers. And that means being pleasantly surprised, because we're not stuck in this habitual thought pattern of perfectionism. I think that perfectionism brings more women down than anything else that I've seen. So knowing yourself, being aware of those thought patterns, being aware of changing them, that's the number one thing when you're going to go into an entrepreneurial journey, because you're alone a lot of the time. And when you're alone with a head who's telling you you're not good enough, that sucks. What the hell did you do that for? It's it's not easy. And when you realize that your thoughts are your thoughts, and guess what? You don't have to believe everything that your mind tells you. You get to change it. That's the beauty of it. And it's not in our awareness. And we're so habitually oriented to how we've always done it in the past. We just show up as who we are, and we have all those thoughts with us, and we just think that's who we are. But you can massively change how you show up and who you are in your own head. And that's the first journey to going into entrepreneurship. That was my journey. I can talk about that a little bit later.
Speaking of your journey, so Miss Barbara, you are always evolving and finding new ways to help leaders connect. Is there any exciting on your horizon right now? Any new projects the women on IT community should be looking out for?
Yes, actually, I'm actually in the midst right now of developing a group coaching program. I have in the past, I've done some group coaching with people who've done my one-on-one coaching first. And right now, the only offer I have is a 12-week one-on-one coaching program, because I have found that is really that's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck, and where you're going to be able to move forward very quickly when you do that kind of very focused work over a period of time, 12 weeks, so you can actually change your habits. And then again, being held accountable for doing the work, because I hold people accountable every week. And from there, then when you have all the basics of what I have to teach about awareness, listening, and word choice, then you can move into, everybody has kind of the same understanding, then you can move into a group coaching environment. So I'm playing with that now, seeing if there's a way I can reduce the barrier of entry to a 4-week coaching program, and then getting into the group. I would love to hear from any of your listeners if this is something interesting to them. I would really love to know about that. I hope that they would reach out to me in email, which is just barbara@clearlycommunicate.com. It's just clearly communicate. There's no funny spelling or anything else. And you can let me know you're interested, and I can get a sense of whether this product is what I want to continue to develop. And I'm using all sorts of AI, different apps and AI-driven technology to help support the journey along the way, and to help people really make those changes stick.
So for our listeners, details will be on our comment section. So if you want to reach to Miss Barbara, just let us know as well. And as we are gonna go to the end of our show, so let me ask you, Miss Barbara, what is the number one book you can sit and think, oh, I wish I read before I started my career?
I definitely have one. It's a book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, Gay. It's probably short for Gaylord, I would think, but it's Gay Hendricks. And that book talks a lot about what I talked about today, where we have these limiting beliefs, these self limiting beliefs that keep us stuck. And The Big Leap takes us from that into our zone of genius. And the book talks about how to do that. It talks about great examples of people who have done that. And I love that book. It's dog-eared and underlined, and I go back to it often.
Let's imagine that you could meet anyone in the world for a private breakfast. Who would it be and where would you choose to meet?
You know who it would be? I imagine you're asking me anyone dead or alive. I would say that I would love to meet and talk to Oscar Wilde.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Oscar Wilde, if you don't know who he was a great English writer. And what he was, it was right around not quite the turn of the last century. He was in the late 1800s is when he was an adult living in London. And he had sort of a tragic end to his life. I won't get into that right now, but he was very much, he really was a wordsmith, and he beautifully called out the high society at the time and the incongruency that he saw going on all around him in London. He's very eloquent and well spoken. He was a very smart man, and he wrote a book called The Picture of Dorian Gray that is very good. It's a very, very good book, and it's about a man who is able to take all of his failings and all of the kind of the bad things he does and the bad person that he is in his life, and they're able to come off of him, and he puts it on a picture of himself, a painted portrait that he keeps in a closet. And so he becomes this really horrible, horrible person over time, but he doesn't have to deal with any of the consequences because he's put everything on this picture, and the picture becomes this horrible, grotesque thing, as you can imagine. And I won't give away the end of the story, but that's the premise of it. And it just reminds me that, you are who you are when you show up in your life. And we don't have a picture where we can put all the things that we don't want to talk about, or all those qualities that we all possess them. And if you're not aware of them and you don't own them for yourself, it doesn't mean you have to continue to do them or continue to carry on that way, but you have to know your shadow side as well as the side that you show the world. And that's part of learning how to talk to yourself and understanding that better, so that you can work with that shadow side and accept it as part of who you are in a way that makes sense for you. So that's why I love that. I really love him so much. Look him up, Oscar Wilde, Wilde. Really an amazing person.
Yes, the picture Dorian Gray is a really classic book. So
Yes, have you? Oh, are you aware of it?
yes, and it's on my to be read.
Yeah, it's a good book. Yeah.
Yeah. And lastly, can you please give us your favorite life lesson quote?
Yes, my favorite quote that I have is from Lao Tzu, TZU, and he is often referred to as like the father of Taoism in China. And he says this, and again, I think he was around in 1 AD. I mean, he is an ancient Chinese philosopher. And he said, watch your thoughts because they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. And watch your character, it becomes your destiny. And I have lived long enough to know that is 100% true. And where did it start? Way back at the beginning of time, practically, with your thoughts. That's where it all starts, because they become your words, become your actions, become your habits, become your character, become your destiny. You want to change your destiny? You change your thoughts. It seems hard, but it's not. It's just harder than you want it to be, and it's able to do it. So that is my favorite quote.
And that's it from 209 of the PhD live stream. Thank you so much to our guest, Miss Barbara Jenks. And to stay updated and ensure you never miss a positivity hack delivered, follow Women on IT and turn on notifications to be alerted once a video has been released. Next week, uh, let us join with Miss Sheena Yap Chan, and we will talk about commanding the room, leadership visibility for women in IT. And thank you to our fabulous team, Herminia, Desiree, and AJ. As always, our positivity quote comes from positive thinking only and goes look something positive in each day. Even if some days you have to look a little harder. Today is your day to hack the future, hack the positivity you want. Thank you.